Welcome to the 2021 Economic Depression and Preparation Channel. I'm your host, Tony. Thank you for joining me on this Thursday edition, July 22nd, 2021. Thank you for subscribing. And today we're going to be talking about the currency collapses that's going on in various countries. And first of all, thank God that we still have buying power with the US dollar right now for gas, food, water, necessities, rent, mortgages, car payments. We're still humming along, so thank God for that. Thank God that he has sustained us, not just paper money, but with physical life, health, and strength to continue to provide for our families and friends and neighbors and things of that nature. So we haven't completely collapsed, but there's other countries that are doing much worse, and that is going to be spreading westward, ladies and gentlemen. And that's what I want to talk about now with you. And also, I'm thankful that we're passing bills to help children, young families, just keeping the assistance coming for best we can before inflation just eats up all of our money. And that's something that's coming in the future, near future. So looking at the reports today, Lebanon, my friends, collapses. The people can't get their money from the banks. The currency has crashed, and Riyad Salamad's regime reign at the central bank is facing allegations of fraud. This was a New York Times report. Lebanon is one of the few countries that collapsed. We've had other collapses with Greece, Turkey. Other countries are in trouble. We're going to look at South Africa. They're in trouble now, as you know, with the arrest of the former President Zuma, but also this financial. All of these uprisings have one thing in common, okay? It's a financial disturbance. People can't get the basic necessities of life. The same thing has happened in Cuba. The hunger, food starvation. People leave their countries not because they want to, but it's because of the economic disaster, the depression levels that the common person faces, that the average person faces beyond the politics, is what causes people to uproot, leave their homes, and go to another country. So the countries at the crossroads of the Middle East is suffering a collapse of historic proportions. Banks are insolvent, unemployment is soaring, currency has crashed, and many Lebanese blame Mr. Salami for the shortcomings that have left them struggling to afford food, scrambling to find medication, and waiting in long lines, queuing in long lines to fuel up their cars. And so that's one reason why, ladies and gentlemen, I tell you to prepare now, because you need to prepare now while the quote-unquote relative good times, quiet times, or things are getting worse, because unemployment is starting to soar here in America. Our currency has not crashed, but banks are solvent for now, but that's just because the Fed is pumping money into the repo market, which I'm going to show you. They're still pumping $120 billion a month into the repo market, and I'm going to show you the article here, what it says immediately after I finish here. But I just want to tell you that civil unrest is coming. You notice the militarization of the police. You have riot police officers. This is in Lebanese central bank back in March, after 2 power plants shut down. And so the government, the powers that be, have the ability to shut down food, power, or water to those in order to get you to comply, so there'll be no rioting or craziness once the economy crashes finally, like Lebanon. It went into total collapse. And in Turkey too, and in Greece and other countries, Zimbabwe, other countries that have collapsed, Venezuela, we can name them on and on. But eventually this is what's going to happen in America. And they may even bring in outside police forces like the UN or some other outside agencies to help calm down American citizens, because we obviously are we have the most been blessed with a lot of things, and it's kind of hard to have all that just disappear overnight or within the period of a couple of years. So Lebanon's collapsed. Food banks, Center for the Elderly, for the people in need, is awesome. I'm glad they're doing this. A lot of nonprofit organizations, a lot of church organizations are doing this for the people of Lebanon. But more than half of the country's 6.7 million people may be living below the poverty line, the World Bank says. And so things are not looking good there. But if you look at the repo market, I'm going to go to the repo market and just explain it. As you can see here, the Fed is pumping hundreds of billions of dollars into it. The banks were insolvent, basically, and that's what started the whole thing before the coronavirus pandemic. This is before March 2020. This happened in this is before March 2020. This happened in September 2019. This started it all. The banks became insolvent, meaning they didn't have enough cash on hand and reserves. The Fed waived the reserve requirement, started pumping in $120 billion of financial cash into the bank's liquidity to help their balance sheet. And they've been doing this ever since. So it's been going on for almost 2 years now. And obviously, this is what's going on. But eventually, the credit crunch is going to happen, and the credit crunch is what's going to happen when the Fed starts to begin to say we need to shrink our balance sheet, which is going up to $8 trillion by the end of this year. They want to get rid of some of these assets, bad debt, bad assets, bad bonds. And that's what's going to cause this thing to go haywire in America and other parts of the country. So moving on, South Africa's unrest is more than a security crisis and could have big political ramifications. 212 people have been killed in South Africa in violence sparked by the imprisonment of former President Jacob Zuma. But political analyst and author Isabis McKaiser says the unrest is a symptom of a much deeper economic and political problems which go to the heart of the ANC-run South African state. Basically, the problem comes down to this. It's basically the same thing that we've seen all over the world. The rich get richer and the poor get poorer. The gap between the rich and poor in South Africa and a lot of these other countries is so big that it's creating inequalities in every facet of life, from food, water, from the basic necessities to food, water, and shelter, to the high-end necessities of, deciding if your kids can get a great education, or, if you can go take that vacation. Everything is being affected by this gap of the rich and poor. And this is worldwide. And people are leaving the countries from South Africa to Honduras to, Turkey to Greece to Venezuela to everywhere, Mexico. People are leaving the countries because of one thing that we've been talking about here on this channel forever, and that is economic chaos, economic depression. Their lives are depressed, incomes are depressed, and that's why I continue to stress to everyone here to be prepared, because we never know when the day comes when we're not going to wake up and be able to go to the grocery store. There may be curfew limits, whether intentional or unintentional, limits on our food. Everything looks good on the surface, just like a river, but underneath there's alligators down there, and we have to be prepared for those alligators in the river. So whether it's food, water, security, gold, silver, cryptos, learning a new skill, learning how to sew, learning how to plant a garden, being more self-sustainable. These are the skills that we need to learn, because these are lifelong skills. More things that we can do with our hands and feet, what God has given us on this green earth, to be able to sustain ourselves, just like animals do. They sustain themselves in the nature, in the wilderness. That's how we're going to be. The more things we can do to do that, the less we have to be waiting in long lines for gas when the doomsday scenario happens, waiting in long lines for food, waiting for medicine in long lines, waiting in, and we can help each other out in our own communities and that way we won't have to go to these camps or these areas that they're going to set up in the malls or in the schools that are going to be desolate for people who have no other place to go, and it's just going to be an absolute disaster. So we don't want to be caught up in that situation. People leave, it could be a case that we could be fleeing from state to state, depending on, job situation, or depending on our family situation or our own health situation, where it may come a time we may have to leave the Northeast, we may have to leave the Southwest, we may have to leave the West, and just be like kind of a nomadic thing. It may come to that point, total collapse. In a total collapse, you may have a nomadic time where you may be traveling in a caravan to a group of people who with similar skill sets for, a time being, and that's just the way it is. So get prepared, stay prepared, be blessed, everyone. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll talk to you in the next episode.